In just a moment, I'm going to tell you how I get around shaking people's hands. We'll tie all these things together. We've got six of them, and that will bring it all together. But what we're talking about are nonverbal cues. Why? Well, because people with autism were nonverbal cue challenged. Those who live in the neurotypical hive mind, they're really good at these things and they don't even know it. They're communicating one with another subtly, subliminally, and they don't even know they're communicating. But we see them communicating and we can't communicate, so it becomes very obvious to us because we don't understand it. We're left out in the cold, so to speak. So let's talk about these six things and see if it can't help us a little bit understand what they are saying and how they are communicating. And the first thing has to do with, eye contact. I don't like to make eye contact. I don't even like to look at a photograph in the eye, which seems kind of silly, but I don't. But what if instead of looking at a person's eye, what you're doing is you're checking to see the size of their pupil, the pupil of their eye. Is it big or is it small? And if it's big or if it's small, that tells us something. Now that's kind of a little trick, a hack, to look somebody in the eye without actually the discomfort of looking them in the eye, because in a sense you're not. You're looking at their eye, not in their eye. So you're looking at their eye so you can tell what they're thinking, how big their pupil is, not how light or dark it is. So this I found on the internet, and I'm quoting here, but it says science of the pupil size is called pupilometry. Didn't know that, and it's used in various psychological phenomena researches, including sleepiness, introversion, sexual interest, racial preference, schizophrenia, moral judgments, autism, and depression. Yeah, you can actually tell if somebody is autistic according to a study that was published on a government site by the size of their pupils. They did a study, this is with children, by the way, and they discovered that those with ASD had a larger pupil size than age-matched controls. Now, personally, I think that's probably not one of the best criteria to determine if somebody is autistic, but it could be a peripheral indicator, a supportive indicator, whether or not they are autistic. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about nonverbal communication. So what exactly does it mean when somebody has small pupils? Well, again, it could mean there's too much light, or it could mean that their adrenaline is flowing and it's causing their pupil to dilate because they're angry. So if you're looking at somebody's eye, next time you're around somebody, just kind of check out their pupil, and they'll think you're weird for studying them, and that's okay. They think you're weird anyhow. But see how big or small their pupil is. And if they're feeling feeling uncomfortable, I should say, maybe it's because you're looking them in the eye and studying them in the eye, and that indicates there's some adrenaline flowing. But what if they have large pupils? Well, that suggests that they like you or they love you. There's a song comes to mind. Who sang that song? Something about the moon in the sky, like the size of your eye. I don't know how that goes, but there's a corollary there that ties those two things together. So look at their eye. Don't look in their eye. Look at their eye. So you're studying their eye. See if you can read them. Number 2, blinking. Is there any scientific research that tells us anything about body language, nonverbal cues when it comes to blinking? Well, yeah, there is, and I got to tell you, personally, I don't put a lot of confidence in nonverbal cues and body language because it's so easy to see things that aren't there. It's easy to make stuff up. But there is some science behind some of this. So that's what we're digging into, and what we're finding is that blinking could mean somebody's friendly. How often have you seen references to blinking related to flirting? Somebody wants to be really friendly with you. But I also found some research at study.com which said that excessive blinking and refusal to make eye contact, thank you for noticing, can reflect deceitful behavior. All right, so somebody is blinking rapidly, and that means they're being friendly or they're being deceitful. And if they're not making eye contact, that means they're being deceitful. Or it could mean they're autistic, but that's not what this study said. That's why I don't like these studies. They bother me because they get it wrong too often. All right, now, before we get to the thing about how I get around handshakes, let's talk about what handshakes mean. First of all, just hand rubbing. This is not a handshake. But according to psychologytoday.com, if I think I'll put this link in the description section, I usually forget to do that, but when people are rubbing their hands together, it actually means something. It means they are hopeful, that they have expectation, could mean they are stressed out, or they are feeling stressful. Isn't that kind of the same thing as stimming? Yeah, I think maybe it is a way to absorb stress. The article didn't call it stimming, but it said stress. What about the double handshake? Have you ever had somebody shake your hand and they use both their hands? Like, why are they doing that? Well, according to what I've read in my research, people do that because they're honest or because they're sympathetic. Or they want to come across as honest, or they want to come across as sympathetic. So maybe they're duping you. So watch out for that. Double handshake, they're trying to make you think they're honest. Maybe they are honest. The next one, number 5, is the upper handshake. That's where they shake your hand, but their hand goes on top of your hand. Normally it's mutual. They just stick it out straight. But this one is where their hand goes over top of your hand, and what that means is they want to dominate you. Is that true? I don't know, but I could see where that would make sense. On the other hand, a lower handshake would indicate submission. Now, in my way of thinking, if I do a lower handshake, which I never do, but if I did, it would suggest to me that I want something. I'm holding out my hand to give me something. That's not based on science, it's just based on me. The straight handshake basically means equality. I see you as an equal. Again, I don't put a lot of stock in these, but still it's important to know these things. Now, in just a moment, I'm going to tell you how I get around the handshake. Number 6. Have you ever seen somebody sit in a chair like they're sitting on a horse? In other words, they sit in it backwards. I've done that a few times. It's not very comfortable. I don't know why anybody would do it, but they do. And what that indicates, according to what I've read on the internet, is that is the body posture of somebody who sees themselves as dominant, nonverbal cue. So if you see somebody riding a chair like it's a horse, they imagine themselves as being dominant, and maybe they are. Let's tie all these things together. So I want to tell you how and why I get around shaking people's hands. What I do is when somebody extends their hand to shake mine, I extend my fist. Fist bump. So far, it's never failed. What happens is the person will give you a fist bump. That indicates, I don't want to touch you. And usually, they kind of get the message. They're understanding. I've never had anybody get upset because I offered them a fist instead of a bump, or instead of a extended hand, rather. But what does that do? Well, what it does is it it makes them remember you. So if I go to a doctor for the first time, and I actually did this, and the doctor extended his hand, and I extended my fist, and okay, I'll give you a fist bump. Next time I saw that doctor, guess what? He didn't extend his hand. He extended his fist bump. He remembered me. He remembered that. So that's a little trick. It not only gets you around having to shake somebody's hand. I don't like touching people. I don't like to be touched. But also, it's a good way to get them to remember you and kind of like you. Makes you unique. You stick out in that person's mind, and we'll see y'all next time.